Hello folks, my name's Derek Jones. I'm a director of EOS Property Group, and I'm going to take about 25 minutes or so to run you through our latest Armchair Developer project at 188 Loftus Street, North Perth. Just to bring you up to date, this is like a second in a series of videos, if you like. So if you don't understand how the Armchair Developer process works, I suggest you hunt around on our website, and there's a bit of an introductory YouTube video there that explains the process. So in giving you or delivering this particular video, I'm going to assume that you've actually viewed that other video and you understand the process. So I'm just wholly and solely focusing on this particular property for this particular video. So let's have a look at it and go through it. Look, the Armchair Developer process is a great way for investors to make some instant, if that's the right word, capital profits or capital gains. And it's also a great way for mums and dad type people, or people who don't have enough time on their hands, to actually use the expertise of a professional development manager to run the project on their behalf, and then retain the developer's profits as their winnings, if you like. So we're going to look at a bit at this particular project. It's 188 Loftus Street. That's actually North Perth. The block that we've got an option on is already zoned R60, so we don't have to worry about going through that sort of process. We know that the zoning allows us to build what we're proposing to build here. So that's a tick in the box, if you like. We know that all services are currently available. There are existing residents on this particular property that have water, telephone, power and all gas and all those other sorts of things. So we don't have to worry about bringing that to the block either. So we save a fair bit of money doing that as well. And the property itself is taken on the basis that it will be a vacant possession when we do in fact take ownership of it. Now the block is big enough or of such a size that it's going to allow us to build 12 apartments or units, to call them what you like, but each of them are being 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom and 2 car space. And of course the 2 car space is an absolute winner from many of our investors' perspectives. So that's like an overview of the program and the project, and as you can see, there's an architect's impression of the project itself. You can see here's the driveway enter, there's all the car parking underneath, a couple of units here at the front. So there's 2 units here on ground floor, if you like. Then there's a row of 5 units up the top in the middle floor, and then there's another 5 units on the top floor. So that's an overview of the program. So let's have a look, see where we're at, where this particular project is at. So that's the location of the project right up there, and there's Loftus Street there coming through and joining Thomas Street. And that's a fairly, it's not over, well, it is a busy road. I'll be lying if I said something else. But typically this part of the world tends to take that, the daytime, Monday to Friday type traffic, and then it settles off a bit, because the main thoroughfare out of Perth, the start and end of day, is up here, the Mitchell Freeway. So there's our project. Down here we've got like a cappuccino strip, whole range of restaurants and those sorts of things, and there's also some that they extend up to here. The Leaderful TAFE is just here, so it's relatively, it would be walking distance from our particular site, and that's more a building architect type TAFE facility. We've got a train station here, so that's, once again, it'd be a good walk, I would imagine, into Perth if you're a train type person, or alternatively going further north. At this particular location you can recreate over here at Lake Munga, and that's a massive lake with surrounding recreational areas. There's a tennis complex in here. There's Leaderville Oval, which is where the Eagles in particular sometimes train. We've got, and then Perth Glory and those sort of things use that as one of their grounds as well. So it's very close to those sort of recreational facilities. Hyde Park is one of the oldest parks in Perth, and that too attracts a lot of local residents into that particular area just to recreate. Down here we've got Northbridge, which is like the nightclub, cafe, cappuccino strip of Perth, and there's the Graham Farmer Tunnel, which takes traffic bypassing the city out through to the east. Perth City down here, and all of the resources and facilities that are offered in a major city centre. Over here we've got Subiaco, and once again a lot of cafes and cafes, coffee shops, those sorts of things down here, and also Patterson Stadium for those people who are football followers. This part of the world here, West Perth, is very much a professional area. Junior miners, those sorts of things tend to use and occupy space in here. Professionals, service industries, the whole lot. So it's very much a professional area. Doctors, physios, dentists, those sort of things there. Down here we've got Kings Park, and you can see that's Perth's one of Perth's major landmarks. And further south here we've got a major hospital, and then UWA further south again. There's the Swan River just coming in here and winding its way round the back of East Perth. And over here, Claysbrook is an area that's had significant redevelopment happening through here. So you can see it's a very, very much a prime location in terms of real estate in Perth. And of course, being a Loftus Street, being a thoroughfare, if you like, or a major road, there's a lot of bus stops along there too. So getting into and out of Perth, very, very easy. So that's where we're at, and that gives you a bit of a snapshot for our development. So that's another artist's impression of it. You can see here the car parks underneath, a couple of deckings over here. So these particular properties here are going to have significant deck space available to them. So we're actually very, very pleased with this particular development. And interestingly enough, the City of Vincent, between the planning department and the developers, which is what we are, what you guys are, they have a design advisory committee, and the design advisory committee have already rubber stamped this particular project, the design, the floor plans, and those sort of things. So we're pretty much 9/10 of the way there towards getting a development approval. So that's actually going to accelerate the process even further. So that's where we're up to with it. What we've got here now is a range of the units. As I said, there's a couple there on the ground floor, units 1 and 2. Units 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, if my maths serves me right, are on the first floor. Oh, there it is there. And then the top floor through there. You'll notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different floor plans, and we've actually obtained valuations on those six different floor plans, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But you can see there internally they're just under the 70 square metre mark. All of the bedrooms are double bedrooms, minimum of 3x3s, so they're quite roomy inside. Some really large balconies and or courtyards, depending on whether you're on the ground floor or not. Vestibules, which are like small balconies or those sorts of things. And then storage space as well, anything up just under 5 square metres, giving some really quite large units there, even just under the 130 mark. So as you can see, they're slightly different in size and things like that, and that obviously we'll talk a bit about that in terms of pricing a little bit later. So this is the floor plan. There's apartments 1 and 2, and you can see there you've got a couple of double bedrooms, the kitchen, dining area, lounge rooms just in here, and then there's your courtyard as well. Now there's all the parking. You can see each unit has 2 tandem bays, so they're not side by side bays, they're one behind the other type bays, and that's the way we could fit it on, if you like. If we had to have side by side, we just wouldn't have fitted the number of bays we require, and instead of looking at a great investment at 2x2x2s, you'd be looking at a good investment at 2x2x1s. So that's why we've managed to do that and taken that course of action. The first floor, you can see here, once again, there's a unit there, a couple of units here, and 2 more units there. There's your stairwells, there's your vestibules, your aluminium screening, and there's north here. Now the views from this particular building are towards the south, and that's why we've put the landings on this particular side as well. The top floor, once again, you're looking at, it's basically a mirror image of the floor immediately below, albeit this is one floor up. So once again, you've got the privacy screening, you've got the decks, balconies, courtyards, call them what you like, along the southern side. So certainly the balconies are on the southern side, but that's just a requirement of the Design Advisory Council. So here we are, type 1, we're on the ground floor here. Sorry, no, we're on the top floor here, and you can see if we look a little bit closer, we've got a single bedroom over here, we've got a single bedroom over here, storeroom here, lounge area, dining room, kitchen. and the same over here. So there's a lounge area there, dining room, and a couple of bedrooms there with showers and vanities and those sorts of things. So they're very well thought out. We're very happy with them and very pleased with the way that they've come together. Now you'll see that because the units vary in size a little bit, that the pricing level, if you like, or the investment required is slightly different too. Now I'm just going to call the initial buy-in, if you like, is about $140,000, and remember that initial buy-in gives you a chunk of the block of land that we're looking at. So it's basically your name along with the other investors on the title. So there's a fair bit of security in that for you. The construction is about $323, give or take a little bit, depending on which unit you're looking at. So your total investment here, we're looking at anything between $460 and about $470. So as I say, this pricing, the investment required is slightly different depending on which unit, and there are the valuations. Now those estimated valuations, we do two things. One, we run the ruler over the real estate in this particular area, and we come up with our own estimations. But then, and that's part of our initial feasibility process, if you like. The second stage of the process is to go and contract one of Perth's premier valuers, and they are suitable for mortgage purposes and those sorts of things, to do an off-the-plan valuation for us. And in this case, because the floor plans were different, we actually contracted to do 5 valuations, and basically it's a valuation for each of the different floor plans. And that's what the valuer has come back at. You can see there's a bit of a range of numbers there. So the profits, 102 and a bit, working upwards to about 105. Now the interesting thing is, when you look at this figure here, the estimated profit as compared to the total investment required, in all cases it's about 72-73%. So there's a degree of consistency in terms of each unit's profit margin in terms of a percentage figure. We've gone to one of the local real estate agents, or a couple of them, to give us an assessment, and this is what they've come back at. Now what we've done here is we've certainly not taken the top of the range. So this particular unit, for example, I can remember clearly the agent suggested that our rent would be reasonably expected to be between the 500 and 550 mark. So we take the middle of the road figure here. The same agents have suggested that if we throw a furniture pack in, and we're talking about 20 grand's worth of furniture here, folks, that rent would increase by anything between $100 and $200 per week. So what we've done here, and you need to understand that, because we've got the middle here and the middle here. Now obviously if we get the upper end of that rent range here and the upper end of that rent range here, it changes those percentages quite significantly. But we tend to work on a conservative basis with all of our estimations, because we want our investor clients to be pleasantly surprised at the end of the process. Now the other thing to remember too, and those of you who have been following the Perth market would understand this very clearly, is that Perth rents are actually on the move right now, and they have probably been for the last 6 months or so. So over the course of this project, which we estimate to be around 18 months, it's quite reasonable and feasible to expect that those rents would actually go up a little bit more. So there's something to think about when you're looking at these and these rent returns as well, is that there is about an 18-month program, so it's reasonable to expect that those rents and possibly even the values would go up. So as I said at the outset, this is armchair development. So you guys don't actually have to do a lot of the work. Sure, you have control over the process in terms of the development manager is answerable to you, but he is the one that you contract to work on your behalf. So you don't need to know what the steps are in terms of getting this development from a sketch on a piece of paper to completion. That is what the development manager does for you. He knows when do I contract the architect? When do I get approval, demolition approval? When do I submit the DA? When do I apply for strata titling? All that sort of stuff. He knows, and he's working on your behalf. So that's the philosophy, if you like, behind the armchair developer concept. Now, at this stage, we haven't chosen builders because obviously we need to get engineered drawings done and all that sort of stuff, and we won't be doing that until we've actually got development approval. But in in going to select our builder, we're certainly not going to put the job, if you like, out to open tender. It'll be a restricted tender. Now, we're working with about 5 or 6 builders and talking to them and sizing them up, and doing some of that background checking that you would do on a builder before you give them a project of this size, to make sure that they've got the relevant experience. They're pretty sizable type of organisation, and they've been around for a little while. So they're 2 key aspects that we've got to look at. But probably if I look at it from my perspective, is I want to know that they're going to build this thing on price and to the timelines that we estimate. So there are sort of 4 aspects to this project, and to the builders in particular, that we'll be looking for when we select a building company over another. So that's how we're going to work our builders and go through them and identify who they are. Now, what we've done here is to grab a snapshot out of our rental appraisal letter, and the full appraisal, by the way, is in the information memorandum, and I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. So there's the rental assessments that the agent provided us with, and just coincidentally, it's these same 5 units that the valuations were undertaken for. So we've just taken these numbers and extrapolated them into the identical units on the identical floors. So that's how we've arrived at that. And as I said, we looked here at a range between 480 and 530, and we would have plumped this one bang smack in the middle, which would have been 505. And here's that comment about an expected rental increase of between $100 and $200 per week. Now, having said that, it's a $20,000 furniture package, and if you're going to get yourself involved in this project, I wouldn't be making the decision about furnishing or not at this point in time. And it doesn't need to be made either, I might add, right now. I'd be looking at trying to do a bit more research into, should I furnish or not furnish this property, a couple of months out from completion. When we say, look guys, this is due to finish in about 6 to 8 weeks time, start getting your finances organised, that's the time that you look at, should I furnish it or should I not? But that's just a bit of information for you, and you can consider that properly at the due point in time. So what's a 2-bedroom unit worth in North Perth? Well, Chris Grannery, my business partner, jumped on realestate.com today, and there were not a lot of 2-bedroom apartments, and certainly not a lot of new ones, because like for like's an important aspect. But Chris was suggesting that it was common to see a 6, 7 or 8 in front of them, and some of those units we even had to go to the city of Perth just to get comparable information, if you like. So we've had the formal valuations done between 560 and 575, depending on which floor and which unit and all that sort of stuff. But that gives you a pretty good degree of comfort, if you like, in terms of the worth of this project. Now, having said that, this is obviously an off-the-plan, piece of paper type valuation. And whilst everybody, we're working our damnedest, it may well be that at completion time, whilst your unit might have been valued off the plan now at say 560, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be 560 at completion. It may have gone up, but equally it may have dropped back a little bit. But given that it's a licensed valuer, that is, I guess the umpire, if you put it in that sort of parlance, in terms of establishing the valuation of a property. So let's have a look at some cash flow estimations here, and we've made up a fictitious person. We've assumed that their annual income is about $70,000, taxable that is. The borrowings is about 6%. That's what they're paying the bank for their borrowed money. And those of you who are in the market would know at the moment that you can get a fixed rate at say 4.9 at the moment, and 5.7s, 5.6s are not unusuals. But we're using 6% for the purposes of these calculations. The first set of numbers that we ran through was unfurnished unit about 510, and you can see here it's cash flow positive at $7 a week, and that cash flow positive figure is based on use of depreciation, tax deductions, rental income, all that sort of stuff too. So just bear that in mind. Look, if we throw a furniture pack in and the rent goes up to $660, then you're starting to look at a positive property on about $80 per week or just under. And these are some of the figures that we're using: council rates, water rates, landlord insurance, body corp, and management fees at 8.8%. Now, if you like the look of this project and you want us to crunch some numbers for you in your circumstances, look, just give us a ring and we'll give you our contact details later, and we're more than happy to do that. Having said that, of course, these things are about 18 months from finishing, so things will change a little bit, but this will give you a bit of ballpark maths to work from and help you make your decision. So this is what it's all about. If you're going to be a property investor, you need to know that the property's in a good location. Well, we've done that for you. You need to know that you're paying a good rate for this particular property. Well, with the armchair concept, you're actually purchasing, or taking ownership is probably more accurate, of the property at well below market value. So you're making $100,000 over the course of this project. And you want to know that the holding costs, if there are in fact any, are significantly lower than they would be, just buying a property through a local real estate agent. And because you're getting this property at significantly less than you would if you're purchasing through a local real estate agent, then it means that your cash flow is significantly better using the armchair concept than it would be if you were just buying a normal property. Now, because of those two factors, the below market value and the high rent returns proportionally, it means that you are in a position to accelerate your portfolio growth much better than you would if you were just buying through a local real estate agent. Having said that, look, this particular project it's a good location. We understand that. The apartments are large, they've got the 2-car space and the 2-bedroom, I might add, and demographically our society is moving to the smaller family, in inverted commas, mum and a child, a couple of mates, a couple of partners, a pair and a single, or just an adult couple. So the demographics in our society are certainly changing, and David Airy, who's the president, I think his title is, of REWA, is suggesting that this component in our demographics is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So the demand for 2-bedroom units is certainly on the up. And of course, we know that the feasibility, with a high degree of likelihood that we're looking at profits of just over $100,000 mark. So that ticks another box for us, and the cash flow is very good too. So let's have a look at it from, as we've just been talking about, buying this property through a local real estate agent versus doing it as an armchair developer. So let's go down to downtown, anywhere for that matter, but let's see at downtown North Perth, and we're going to buy one of these units, and we're going to pay valuation price. So it's $565 because that's what the valuers told us. Most people would borrow their purchasing costs, so we're looking at about 5, and I've allowed about 5% here, so that's another 30 grand. So your total borrowings in this particular context are $595,000. Okay, just under the $600,000 mark, and we're expecting rents in the vicinity of $555 per week, giving us a rent return unfurnished of about 5.1%. So let's now go and buy the same property, or take ownership of the same property, as if we were doing it through the armchair developer concept. Well, the value is not going to change because it's the identical property. There are no purchasing costs because they're all included in that initial investment, that initial buy-in, if you like, and the construction loan. So there's nothing extra to pay, no extra stamp duty and those sorts of things, no solicitor's fees, because that's all covered in the project. Our total borrowings, we know, are about $463, which is really interesting. So instead of borrowing just under the $600,000 mark, we're borrowing just on $463,000. So that gives you equity of an extra $130,000 to play with in your back pocket to help you towards your next property. So that's a really big advantage of this armchair developer concept. The rent's going to be exactly the same, we understand that, but because you're now spending less, your rent return now is up near just over the 6% mark. So that looks pretty good on paper, you've got to admit. But the interesting thing is, if we then look at it from a how does this affect my bottom line, or how does this affect my cash flow, if all the the rates and those sort of things are going to be exactly the same, the big saving from our armchair developer concept is the interest. Now, if interest was, say, 6.5%, we're saving about just under $8,600 per annum, which if my calculator's working is about $165 per week. So not only are you retaining about $130,000 of your own equity, but you're also retaining about $165 per week in your own pocket. So, you know, it wins on both counts, if you like. So that's where we're up to. So if this all sounds quite reasonable and you're thinking, yeah, this is what I want to do, then you need to contact us to get a copy of our information memorandum. Now, we've got a property profile, and that's the Flash Harry stuff, if you like, but the information memorandum is the meat and gristle of the project. So you need to read that because it talks about the risks and all those sorts of things included in that information memorandum, and it runs to about 24 pages. So it's quite a weighty little document. But if you're really interested, you've read that and you like what you see and you've heard tonight, then you can fill in an expression of interest, which is towards the back of that information memorandum. Now, the first tranche of offers or unit allocations will be done based on any expressions of interest and unit preferences we receive by the close of business on Monday. So that's about 5 or 6 days from when I've actually produced this YouTube video. Now, you might say, well, hang on, I'm not seeing this till the start of March. In which case, if there are still units available, you'll be able to choose from those units that are available, and that will be they will be allocated rather on a first in, best dressed basis. So just to clarify that, the first unit allocations are done on a preferential basis, and that is only done amongst people who've got the expressions of interest in by the close of business on Monday the 25th of Feb. If there are any units left over after that, then you get to choose from those that are remaining. So that's all part of the process. Now, the other really important step is that every one of our investors who enters any of our projects needs to be assessed from a finance capacity form. In other words, we and all your colleagues in your joint venture project need to know that you have the readies to be able to do your takeout loan right at the very end. So you will need to talk to our preferred broker to get assessed from a borrowing perspective. So contact us and we'll be able to give you our broker's contact details as well. So if you want some more information, look, there's a 1300 number. By all means, give that a bell and we're more than happy to chat to you. Or alternatively, you can either talk with myself, Derek Jones, there's my mobile, send me an email, more than happy to spend a bit of time on the phone or by email with you. Or alternatively, if you want to have a chat to Chris Granary, he's my business partner, there's his mobile number and there's his email address. So if you're starved for more information, don't hesitate to contact us. Now, if some of this sounds a little bit double Dutch because this is your first contact with the Armchair Developer concept, recommend you hunt around on our website, and there's an introductory video that talks about how the Armchair Developer process works. And you really need to see both videos together to understand the ins and outs of this project in particular. So folks, look forward to catching up with you somewhere, chatting on the phone, by email, doesn't really matter. Give us a call and we'll see if we can help you out. Thank you.